We're talking about CES 2019 with ZDNet's editor-in-chief, Larry Dignan. Larry, we're seeing Google really coming in strong. A lot of attention focused on them this year. Talk about that for us.
Yeah, so as a backdrop, in CES 2017 and 2018 was really all about Amazon Alexa. They had more partnerships. Basically, every device was putting Alexa in there somewhere. You were hearing about Alexas in cars, lots of devices. And Alexa really jumped out to a huge lead. So now you fast forward to today, Google has a big presence on the CES floor. They're all over the show, and they've actually seemed to be catching up with their device partnerships with the likes of GE, KitchenAid. You know, you go down the list, they're kind of everywhere, Lenovo. So what you're seeing is Google's basically, by the end of the month, Google should be on the billion device mark for Google Assistants. Now, keep in mind that Google Assistant, which is sort of becoming the front end of Google, generally speaking, it's conversational and it uses AI, natural language processing. And, you know, in some cases, Assistant's going to be able to stand in for you to make appointments and stuff. But so basically, in a nutshell, they're going to be on 1 billion devices pretty soon. And that includes smartphones, which is kind of obvious given Android, but you're seeing them ramp up with other devices and it's being embedded. And what you're seeing with the hardware vendors as they roll out devices, they're basically splitting their bets between Alexa and Google Assistant. So it's clearly becoming a two-horse race. Like, yeah, we'll hear Samsung talk about Bixby and, you know, Apple has Siri and et cetera, et cetera. But the reality is most devices in your house and business are going to have Google Assistant and or Amazon Alexa built in.
Okay, and kind of talk a little bit, Larry, about, you know, the differences.
Yeah, well, the differences are kind of interesting. Like Google Assistant is basically a showpiece to show off what Google can do, right? So it aims to plug into all these Google services, Maps, Calendar, G Suite, et cetera. And it's basically looking to highlight these Google services, increase usage, and the play for Google ultimately is going to be ad revenue. Right? Whether that is using Google Assistant to drive you to a local business, it could be driving you to a Google service. Amazon Alexa is a little different, right? It's the same kind of theme, except it has that e-commerce twist. Now, people aren't necessarily shopping with Alexa yet, but you see Alexa where you can shop, you can make lists, you can do a lot of things. You can do calendar sort of things too, but it's kind of a different animal. So where one has an e-commerce twist, the other one really has a more multi-purpose kind of hook. And I think for developers, it's going to be interesting because you're going to wind up developing for both. But Google Assistant's much more about Google, where Amazon Alexa, you know, it has a big skills set of developers on board. It has a huge library of things it could do. And, you know, the end game for this is like all AI and machine learning. You need that scale. You need those folks who can keep asking questions. So that's why this CES is important for Google Assistant, because the more it's out there, the more queries it gets, the smarter it gets. And you're seeing this with Alexa too. The more folks ask questions, the more skills are added, and it's a nice little snowball effect. So, I mean, I think what we're going to get to is a digital assistant duopoly, where these things are going to have Google Assistant and or Alexa on board. And that's just the way things are going to be. And we're already seeing this, like in the field, you know, you're going to have a device that you ask Google questions, and then you're going to have a device where Alexa is kind of the brains of the whole thing. So I think that's the rub. Like I think these devices that can do both are going to be pretty interesting over time.
All right, and with so much emphasis, Larry, on the smart homes, smart offices, and cities, this theme certainly plays nicely into all of that.
Yeah, it does. I mean, Alexa for business is a big deal. I expect a lot more of that going forward in 2019. Google's already there too. So I think the thing to watch going forward is how Google Assistant and Alexa gets integrated into business. Because from a consumer worker perspective, you're already used to using those things anyway. So then it becomes a game of how does that get connected to AWS, for instance, like with the enterprise. How does that get connected to Google Cloud? Like in a lot of ways, this just becomes a front end to a lot of your enterprise software. And I think that's probably the next wave of this. Like right now, it's a carpet bombing strategy where you just want to be embedded into everything. And then going forward, then from there, you can kind of develop the business strategy. But rest assured, Alexa is kind of all over Amazon Web Services. And I expect Google Assistant, there's going to be a lot of business use cases for that with Google Cloud. I think the challenge for all of us will be how do we mix and match those two things? Because I don't think, Google Assistant to me in my queries seems to be a bit smarter. There are times where Alexa seems, not so bright, but that gap's closing. And I think that's what this big race is about, right? It's about how many queries can you get to make these things smarter.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, Larry, to see how this all plays out. As always, we appreciate your insight. And for more coverage on CES 2019, be sure to stick with Tech Republic, ZDNet, and CNET.